Hello, Moon Units, and welcome back to Men with Funny Heads. We're back from our break, and we're ready to prattle on about science fiction again. As always, I am Wib, and I am joined by my good friend, Longfang. Say hello to the lovely listeners, Longfang.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the Zappa reference, kind of.
I thought you'd appreciate that one. How are you doing, my friend?
Not bad. Happy to be back at it.
Yeah, it's been a while. Sorry we didn't mention it in the last podcast that we were having a break over the winter. I just have.
It just kind of happened. I had a downturn in mental health and needed some time off from this and streaming. So, we just decided to have a little break.
It's all fine. We're back now. So, over the period that we were away, there is something that has come up that I want to draw to your attention.
Okay.
So at Christmas, my father, who is a listener of this podcast, because he's probably the reason why I'm into science fiction the way I am, he gave me a gift. What he gave me is this wonderful little book that I am holding in my hand right now.
Okay.
It is the Star Wars joke book.
Oh, no.
It is, I want to point out, this is officially licensed. This isn't like some like knockoff thing. This is officially licensed. So I'm gonna read you a joke from here, and it may come up again. Who knows? Pick a page between 6 and 96. Longfang.
90.
90. Okay. Where are we? 90. Who did Jabba hire when his Rancor was ill?
I don't know.
Boba Fett.
I'm going to kill you through Discord, my friend.
It's like segmented into different sections of jokes about different characters.
Right.
We'll hear more from that joke book later.
Oh, good! I'm looking forward to it.
But the main subject today is a wonderful little show that aired between 1975 and 1977, which was called Space 1999. Mm-hmm. Do you have any experience with Space 1999 before this?
Yes, I saw reruns of it when I was a kid.
Yeah. I never really saw it when I was younger. I watched... I watched the whole of the first season, binge watched it a couple of years ago, and was like, oh, this is amazing. And then I got to season 2, and then I never finished it, because it's not very good.
Good.
But for those not in the know, Space 1999 was created by Jerry and Sylvia Anderson, the Thunderbirds people.
The Thunderbirds people, the Captain Scarlet people, the Stingray people.
Yeah.
The Joe 90 people, if I'm missing anything right now.
Terrahawks. Secret Service. Terrahawks was only Jerry Anderson.
Oh, okay.
Which may explain why it's shit.
And
I know a lot of people,
ghouls.
A lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for Terrahawks, and I totally understand it. But from someone who never saw it as a kid coming into it, wow, it sucks.
Yeah.
But anyway, Space 1999 was a UK show primarily, but it had an Italian production company attached and was also, marketed towards an American audience as well.
Right, which explains Martin Landau, probably.
Yeah, and it was another production company got involved with season 2, and it was retooled for an American audience, which we'll get to later. Mm-hmm. I would go over the whole premise of the show, but since we're covering the very first episode of it, which entirely sets up the premise of the show,
this
not
is
really
a
necessary.
Very good pilot setup episode.
Yeah, it gives you everything you need to know. This episode's called Breakaway, by the way. It was originally planned as a new season of a different Jerry and Sylvia Anderson show called UFO, which I watch, which I have seen all of. And it's quite a fun little show. It's basically Earth is being attacked by aliens, and it's the secretive organization Shadow protecting Earth from their machinations.
Good.
And there is a moon base on that, and the Space 1999 is based heavily around a moon base. But in UFO, the crew of the moon base, who are, apart from the pilots who fly these little fighter things that have huge nuclear missiles on the front,
because of course they do,
that look a bit penile. It's quite
shit!
funny.
Yeah, did you not show me a picture of those fucking things? Oh,
I did. I hid one in a recent YouTube video because I'm that kind of person.
Yeah, not the best.
But the main crew is all female, and as part of their uniform, they wear bright purple wigs.
Fuck yes, now I remember. Yep.
And that's not like some kind of joke or like, oh, they all wear those, it's part of their uniform. Haha. No, this is a thing we are directly shown in the show, because when they are at work, they have these purple wigs on. But then you'll see them, they come back to Earth and are in like casual clothes, and they're not wearing them.
What can you even say to that?
I don't even know. It's just a thing in that show.
Yep.
Yeah, UFO is a lot of fun. It's very weird. But yeah, this was Space in 1999 was originally planned as a sort of new season of that, but it span off into it being its entirely own thing, which I think was probably the best choice in the end. Now, I mentioned before, it has 2 seasons which are broken down into years. So people refer to Season 1 as Year 1 and Season 2 as Year 2. Just, to put it out there.
Okay.
And I did do a video on this very episode on one of the 47 YouTube channels I run.
Yes, the 47, otherwise known as 2.
3, technically, because there's one for this as well.
Okay, yeah, fine.
But I did like a kind of rundown review type thing of it because I just really like it. And that video has forever been subject to annoying copyright woes. Originally, I couldn't get it on YouTube. I had to upload it to VidMe, what became YouTube for fascists. And then that shut down on account of being YouTube for fascists. And
I forgot that died.
Well, actually, I suppose more fairly, it's YouTube for MGTOWs, is what it really was.
Yeah.
And when that shut down, I managed to re-edit it and get it up on YouTube. And then ever since, it's varied in what territories you're allowed to watch it in.
Yeah.
I think currently it's available in most of the world except for the UK.
I think I might know why.
It's ITV holding the rights to it.
ITV has their own streaming service. BritBox, which Space 1999 is on.
That would explain it. Although this happened a while ago. Like I edited this.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's maybe in the run up to. Oh yeah, we can put this on our streaming service. They started having a calling. Of possible things. It's
annoying, but hey, now this episode will exist and will sort of replace it.
And you can watch that and classic Doctor Who on BritBox.
Are you being paid by BritBox?
No. Fucking wish. Keys money.
Yeah, no. I keep meaning to try it so that I can watch all the old Doctor Who's.
It's fine.
It's just another streaming service
of
47 that you have to be.
The only thing I used it for was to watch the Doctor Who movie with Peter Cushing in it.
That is, I can't say anything because though I eventually used it to watch many things, like the Clone Wars and the DuckTales reboot, things like that, and Mandalorian, WandaVision shit. I originally mostly subscribed to Disney Plus so I could watch The Black Hole.
We ended up doing a podcast on, so there you go.
We did indeed. So yeah, I have no leg to stand on when it comes to getting a whole new streaming service just to watch one a little crap.
I didn't even give them money. I got a free trial and then never went back.
Yeah, I think I watched mine on my free trial as well. Anyway, I should probably get to the actual episode.
Yes.
So this is episode 1, year 1, Breakaway. We open on the moon, More specifically, the dark side of the moon on September the 9th, 1999, with some people in spacesuits checking on the radiation seals on a place called Nuclear Waste Disposal Area 2. Because in the fiction of Space 1999, we just put all of our radioactive waste on the moon.
Now, you say the fiction, we know that's going to end up fucking happening.
Well, yeah. Yeah, this is honestly a fairly hopeful representation of the future.
Yeah, I have to give them props. They literally went, yeah, we're going to end up fucking doing that back in the 70s, so, you know.
I mean, it is a funny thing because it's set on the specific date of September the 9th, 1999, and you're like, it's over 2 decades since that point now.
Yep.
I always find those delightfully charming. It's like, it's like I remember the 80s cartoon Thundar the Barbarian, which is very similar to He-Man, but actually predates it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he's like He-Man if he had a lightsaber. It's really bizarre. But it's set in the post-apocalyptic Earth, like 1,000 years in the future or whatever, when science and magic have sort of become the same thing.
Got you.
So you have these like scientist wizards being the villains.
Good.
And it's very Warhammer 40,000, honestly.
I was going to say.
But in that, the apocalypse happens in, like, I think it's 1997.
Man, so like, the previous generations really just thought we'd be fucking dead by now.
I remember watching it like, in, like, 1997 and being like, huh. Because it used to be on Cartoon Network all the time before Cartoon Network made tons of their own shows. But anyway, these people checking on the radiation seals on this disposal area are on the radio with two of the main characters of the show, which is Victor Bergman, played by Barry Morse, and Helena Russell, played by Barbara Bain. They're kind of monitoring them because there's something going off. They're checking the radiation levels. There's obviously something amiss that we're not sure of. As they're checking stuff, everything seems fine. And we see an Eagle, which is like a modular transport that they use in the show. Like the midsection can be taken out.
It's a shuttle thing.
Yeah, it's like it's a modular shuttle.
I do, at this point, want to mention, on behalf of Bergman, excellent sideburns.
Yes, amazing sideburns. I cannot throw any shade at his sideburns. Actually, Victor is my favourite character in the show. So.
Yeah, fair.
He's just a nice old man.
Yeah, he's just pleasant.
Yeah, he's just really pleasant to watch. I really enjoy him.
The uniforms look like they're straight out of the like offcuts bin of Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
I mean, you're not wrong.
And the zip on the shoulder must be the most irritating thing on earth.
If I remember correctly, the outfits, like most of the things in the Anderson shows, were designed by Sylvia Anderson because she was a bit of a fashion person. Okay, and so she like did all the costume designs for like both the live action and the puppet based stuff.
So we have Sylvia Anderson to blame for everyone wearing those slightly too tight midriff belts in this.
Yes, I believe so. Yes, I believe it. I believe if we want to put blame on a single person, then it is probably her. Although you might want to verify that before you
start
before you start cursing her. Before you start vaguing about Sylvia Anderson on Twitter.
Yes.
But anyway, so we see them loading up radioactive waste into one of these Eagles. And then we see another Eagle, because there's just fucking millions of them, heading towards the moon base. The pilot is voiced by Shane Rimmer, who you might recognise as Scott Tracy from Thunderbirds.
Yes.
And you get a little bit of Thunderbirds music as well, mostly because Barry Gray's music, who does the music for most of Jerry Anderson's stuff, has a very distinctive sound.
Got you.
And so it can be used interchangeably, but they use a little bit of a riff that was used in Thunderbirds when you see that. I don't know if it was just reusing music or if it was like intentionally a nod because Shane Rimmer was the pilot.
Yeah. Fun.
But anyway, on the Eagle, we're introduced to Martin Landau playing Commander John Koenig.
Good name.
Yeah. He opens up a video chat with his boss, Commissioner Simmons, who tells him it's his job to put a man on Meta, which is an Earth-like planet that could support life that we've been getting like signals from.
Yes.
And basically there's a probe that's going to be launching from, well, not necessarily the moon, I think it's actually from the space station that's connected to the moon. But
Thank you, I wasn't sure about that.
There's reasons some things in this episode might not be 100% clear, which I'll get to later.
Okay.
There's a lot of that in this episode of, we'll get to that.
Okay.
But yeah, this probe they're going to send there, and they've been having problems with it. It seems that there's a virus going about that's infected the pilots, and that, they're like, we can't let that stop us. On the way past, we actually see that space station, and you see the probe, which actually does have the same cockpit section as the Eagles do.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me.
Thus, because I think you do see that on a later episode of the show. You see a thing very much like that, and it is just that little cockpit section is, again, because it's hot, these ships are modular, so they can just pop that off and pop it onto another ship, which is just kind of fun. There was, if you want to know, there were toys available of Eagles.
Of course there was.
Which came in multiple different...
If you want to get into this, I had a space precinct, the cop car?
Mm-hmm.
One of those, but it was actually a bottle of bubble bath.
I remember those.
And I kept the bottle with the bit at the back to make the engines and everything fit as a toy. So there.
I did that, but with a Batman Forever.
Oh, the
Batmobile.
Batmobile, yeah.
Yeah, because the inside filled up with blue.
Yep.
Like the thing that... Yeah, anyway. Where are we? So yeah, you see the thing from orbit, and then we cut back to the waste disposal facility where one of the people who's checking at it suddenly has a spike in their brain activity. And they're like, you got to get him out of here. And as he starts freaking out and he starts fighting the other guy, saying he's got to get out of there. You actually quite clearly see him when he picks one of the guys up and throws him. You see his visor get knocked off.
Yes, I noticed it as well.
So he's fucking dead. He then runs off into the force field surrounding it. Is knocked back. He cracks his visor on a rock when he lands, and we see that his eyes have gone to this like milky white.
Yes, that has to be one of the worst ways to go, right?
Oh yeah, pretty bad. Pretty rough. And then we get the intro, and I just want to take a moment to say that I adore the intro of this show.
As do I.
It starts off with your typical Barry Gray music, and then it gets funky as fuck.
And that is a twangy guitar.
Yeah, and it's all done with like this really high energy smash cut editing that gives it so much energy, and it's like text is coming up on the screen really quick as well, like with like the date of the thing, and then like in this episode, and there's just something about it that I adore the way it's done. It's just it's great. Then we move on to Koenig having landing on the moon base and getting into seeing the oddly pink moon subway.
Yeah.
There's like a little underground train thing that goes from different parts, but the inner parts of the tube are lit like a leftist YouTube video. They're bright pink. It's weird. I don't know why. Right. I approve. We use coloured lighting all the time.
It's nice just to see different colours being used, because the rest of the set, as nice as it is usually stark white.
So I guess they had to break it up somehow.
Yes, I do want to speak on that for a second. I really like these sets. Again, it looks like stuff you would have seen on Star Trek The Motion Picture. Big open areas, very white, backlit panels everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say it's one of those shows where the parts that are not good about it, I still find charming. So, I have nothing but praise for this until we get to season 2. Anyway, Koenig is met by Victor, and he's kind of let in that things are much worse than people have been saying. There's people dying of this virus infection.
Mm-hmm.
They meet up with the previous commander, who's pretty much like, peace, I'm out.
Bye.
He just doesn't give a fuck. It's great.
Yeah.
Koenig's like, oh, he's taking it well, and Victor's, oh, I'm sure he'll survive. So he's always been very flexible, and Victor gives a little nod, which I think means they've all had sex.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
That it's the way in which Victor gives this knowing nod when Koenig says, oh yeah, he's always been very flexible. Like
everybody fucks in the moon base.
Yeah, it's the fuck base.
Yes.
That's just what it is.
You need something to do in between shifts.
Yeah. I mean, what else can you do on the moon? Slightly different gravity as well. A whole new experience.
Mm-hmm.
As they're walking through the main command center, everyone's kind of saying hi to Koenig, so it sort of gives you a bit of a hint that he's liked and respected.
Throughout the episode, I kind of got the vibe that Koenig was at one point in command of that base, then left.
I don't know if they go into that, 'cause it's been a while since I watched the full show. But
yeah, there's a moment about talking about, this is way later, so don't worry, we'll talk about it later, but when they're talking about Disposal Site 1, Victor mentions that they haven't used that since John was there.
Yeah, or at least he must have been there at some
as an
point.
Officer or something, maybe.
Yeah, but anyway, once they get to Koenig's, it's now Koenig's office.
Yes.
Victor, he talks to Victor, who kind of is like, look, this virus that people are coming down with, that made the guy go into rage mode earlier. This virus isn't a virus. It looks like radiation, but we can't detect any radiation. That's why they were checking the place earlier, the waste disposal site.
Mm-hmm.
And Koenig's emphasizing, okay, we got to get this sorted, but the probes being sent to Meta is the most important space flight of the century, so we've got to do that. And Victor tells him that, the findings of Dr. Russell weren't reported by the previous commander, so, Koenig should really go and talk to her about what she's found.
The previous commanders kind of went, nope, we're not going to talk about it, it's fine, the space launch can go ahead because shareholders and money.
Yeah, it turns out his not giving a shit attitude was just his entire character.
Yeah.
So, going to Dr. Russell's office, you see her use the incredibly long communicator and door opener device they all have.
That, multi-tool they have with, it's sort of dagger length, we'll say, with where the pommel would be a tiny CRT monitor.
It's adorable.
It's so awkward looking.
It's obviously they were okay, what's the smallest screen we can get? And then you realise it has to be built into this huge thing because it's 1960, 1975.
I'm thinking of an example here. Okay, everyone, pick up your mobile phone. You've got your main screen with all your beep boops and your buttons. But imagine if you were to do a FaceTime call, you'd be looking at the charging port.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the angle that she has to look through this thing.
This is not relevant to anything important in the episode, but, it is something that when you're watching it, you can't help but obsess over a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just a weird little thing. Anyway, going into her office, Koenig kind of manhandles her microscope because he doesn't know boundaries. While she tells him that, this is not a virus.
He starts a discussion while looking through the microscope. I'm like, mate, that's just awkward.
Yeah, it's like a replica microscope she's got. It's not something she actually uses. It's like a fake antique, like a replica of an antique.
It was an award for, I think, her at some point during her education.
Yeah. So she says this is not a virus. They have an unusual form of brain damage, so they're not going to recover. And because the main crew of the Metaprobe have this quote-unquote virus, they're looking at the backup crew, and the backup crew are fine, but so were the main crew until they weren't.
Yeah.
And so far, 11 of the 9 people who have got this virus have died.
9 out of the 11, you mean?
Sorry?
9 out of the 11, you mean?
Oh, yeah, 9 out of the 11, sorry.
If 11 out of the 9 had died, that would be incredible.
Impressive. There was some high mortality on a couple of those.
One of them died, a couple of them died twice.
They took people down with them. But yeah, and all the people outside of the 2 astronauts for the Metaprobe worked on Waste Disposal Area 2, which is why they've been checking Waste Disposal Area 2. And since the backup crew and the main crew have lived in the exact same situations up to now, there's no guarantee that they wouldn't suddenly be affected too.
Specifically, they might be suddenly affected while they're travelling through space and just die.
Yeah, so Dr. Russell's like, yeah, this sending them out is a bad idea, but the decision is yours. But it is a bad idea.
Yeah. I get this, like, oh yes, the Metaprobe project is very, very important, but like, yeah, your first 2 pilots have brain damage and 9 people are dead. Maybe let's take a step back and look into this. I know we're on the clock with like the fucking planets aligning or some shit, but come on, man.
Yeah, it's like yeah, maybe not. We cut to the astronauts in their like life support thing. They're all catatonic with their blue left tube lighting.
Yes.
And seeing that, Koenig then goes to go and meet another one of the main characters, Alan Carter, who's played by Nick Tate, who's a pilot. And he tells them, everything's ready for the Metaprobe except for the crew. And Koenig's like, well, how long would it take to get the backup crew up and running? And he's like, well, too long. What aren't you telling us? And Koenig's really just telling him the absolute basics because it's very need to know at this point.
Yeah. At the same time, though, like, it's very clear no one knew the severity of what was going on.
Yeah, there was basically just... It's basically just, like, Victor and Russell who know.
Yeah.
Like, and Koenig's now finding out. So it's, it's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Back in Koenig's office, his boss, Commissioner Simmons, calls and is like, I just wanted your first impressions of the situation. And Koenig's like, yeah, shit's fucked, man. it's pretty bad.
Koenig's fucking pissed. He's like, why did you lie to me about this?
Yeah, Simmons, says, oh, Dr. Russell doesn't know what she's talking about. I'm going to send a team of top medical people who will give me the answer I want.
Actually, yeah, the answer he wants, yeah. I do want to point out that during this conversation, Simmons is on 2 screens on, like, a column at 90, like, each screen's at a 90-degree angle from each other, and Koenig just paces around and looks in each individual one now and again.
It's very weird.
I wonder how that looks to Simmons. Does he have to keep like switching from camera 1 to camera 2 to actually see him?
It's just how everyone communicates in the future. They have the communication column in the centre of their room with 2 screens so people can pace if they need to.
Yes.
Koenig basically says, look, before you do anything, just please let me check this out and stop sending radioactive waste up there. And Simmons agrees, like, okay, I will do, it's basically as long as he gets the probe launched.
I will delay the waste. I will not stop.
Yeah, he'll delay it. He's a dick, so he can't just do the good thing.
Bell end.
And you find out, and Simmons says basically he lied to Koenig because if it got out what's been happening, then they'd lose all their funding, and none of the Metaprobe thing just wouldn't happen.
And that's a valid reason, obviously, because, people dying, it's fine, we need the money for something else, we'll keep it on the down low, it's alright.
Yeah, this is fine.
And then when the mission fails, whoops.
Whoopsie-daisy. So Koenig decides he needs to go and check out Waste Disposal Area 2 himself. So he and a bunch of other, him and a crew get into another Eagle, because this is the Eagle meta is strong in this show. Because it's basically the only ship they have.
I was about to say, it's the only thing they have up there. Other than little buggies, which are adorable.
Yeah, I consider eagles. They're sort of like, they're like they're on like a farm and it's a Land Rover. It just does whatever you need it to do.
Okay, fair enough.
And so they fly, and so as they're flying there, they fly over Waste Disposal Area 1, which everyone uses as a navigational beacon because,
specifically the beacon in Disposal Area 1. Beacon Delta, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's Beacon Delta, which they fly over that point because it's like one of the few frames of reference around that side of the moon because the moon's just an endless sea of grey. It's like the colour grading on Captain America Civil War.
And also, to point out, Disposal Area 1, not on the dark side, but this is like, or on the dark side, but this is the last nav beacon or like landmark they have to head for 2, which is on the dark side that they haven't put any beacons on for whatever reason.
It's fine.
It's fine.
But Area 1 has not actually been used for 5 years. It's a lot less well shielded than Area 2, but there's a lot less there, and its levels are apparently all fine. So
there is mention of synthocrete radiation covers.
That very real thing, yes. As we're flying over, you see their pilot, who's a guy named Collins. He's starting to get a little bit twitchy. Just a little bit.
I have noted here, oh no, pilot has the space crazies.
He has a little bit of the space crazies.
Yeah.
Over at Area 2, when they get there, everything seems normal, but Collins has now unfortunately caught the virus that makes you touch your face.
Okay, couple of things. Just out of my notes here. Really nice camera shot with Koenig and Victor in the foreground. No, in the background, looking at them, and just the astronaut's twitchy hand right up at the camera. It looks really good.
Yeah, some nice shots in this.
And then I have another note of, mate, stop rubbing your eyes with your space gloves.
Yeah, he just starts rubbing his face a lot. It's really, it's the sign that he has come down with the virus.
Yes.
And then he pulls his hand away from like the bit of his face that he's covering, and he's got one of these milky eyes.
And my next note is, see, that's what happens when you rub your eye with your space gloves.
He's got moon pink eye, so it's like grey eye or something.
Yeah.
And he then starts saying, like, Commander, I've got to get out of here. Move aside, Commander. He's really polite about his mania.
The politest maniac.
And he knocks Victor and Koenig aside and starts smashing the window with his helmet.
Yes.
Koenig then, is able to stun him with like a hand laser thing, and they drag him out the room. And as soon as they seal the door, the window, which was cracked from being hit, shatters, decompressing the room. The trivia section on IMDb helpfully points out that...
please don't be pedantic. Oh, no.
Yeah, the trivia section on IMDb helpfully points out that the glass would be made of thicker stuff, so this is unrealistic. Thank you, IMDb trivia section. No one could have figured that out on their own.
See, when you watch a show, don't take your own baggage into it like that. Just watch it. If everything has to be 100% realistic, it sucks. This man was in such a manic rage that we said he hit the window. He hammered the fucking thing with that helmet.
Yeah, and it's like, look, if you want like an in-universe explanation, it's special space glass that can deal with like the vacuum of space, but is quite thin. Yeah. And the only danger is if you start twatting it really hard. But they assume that much like real windows, most people will not do that.
Yeah. Or the fact that this man has the space crazies has somehow boosted his strength.
Yeah, well, he's full of adrenaline. He's hitting it harder than a person normally would be able to.
Job done. Don't be a pedantic little shite bag.
But yeah, thank you, IMDb. You are forever a treat.
It's like the people that complain about Yoda lifting an X-Wing out of the swamp. It's like, it's fucking space magic, shut up.
It's literal magic.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Anyway, Back at the main base, Koenig asks for all the info on all the training flights because he's desperate to try and find a correlation between what's going on here because obvious big problems.
It's clear that the disposal sites are involved with this, and he wants to know if there's any connection between what the pilots have been doing, like their training flights, and those disposal sites and the crews that work at those sites.
Yeah. He then discovers that one of the Metaprobe astronauts that we previously saw in the incredibly blue room has died, and shortly afterwards we see another one being the other one being taken off life support because he's effectively brain dead and just being kept alive by the life support. By the way, the one who was taken off life support that we see, his name is Eric Sparkman.
Yes.
If you've ever wondered what the boss from Mega Man 3's first name was, it's Eric.
Thanks for that in this very depressing scene.
It is a very depressing scene. I thought I'd liven it up.
The medical computer's like, there's no brain function. He's literally being kept alive by the life support system now, and it's like Russell has to go over and like push the buttons to turn everything off, and it's like, oof.
And while that's happening, I'm quickly googling which Mega Man game Sparkman's from. So you know,
good, carry on. It always unnerves me to see people that are in a like vegetative state. I'm not sure the right word, honestly, but with their eyes wide open. Nope.
It's yeah.
You're not like.
At this point, Koenig goes to the island, the pilot, and just comes clean, saying the probe astronauts died of an illness. We don't understand. Earth Command has been lying to them the whole time. And he's like, forget the probe. Before anything else happens, I'm going to find out why those 2 men died, because apparently he didn't care about the other 9 regular workers.
No, because
10
the
actually,
other
I
ones,
guess.
the other ones were probe crew, so, you know.
Yeah, actually, yeah, because 9 have already died. Then there's the one who's died during, who just died, Colin. Well, actually, no, we don't, Collins might still be alive.
Yes, because he got stunned.
So 9 people have died, but they don't count because they're not astronauts.
Exactly.
Koenig then has an introspective coffee break.
I liked this.
Where the voices of all like the different factors are kind of, you know, they're whirling around his mind as he sits there in the dark drinking coffee, which is...
I kind of like the scene.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I wake up in the morning, just minus the coffee.
Yeah, but it's the Picard in his ready room moment, you know?
Yeah, showing him considering...
like, actually everything. Sitting and just thinking and mulling things over and not just... We don't cut to the next scene of, I have a plan. No one has a plan. Everything's fucked.
Everything is bad. So we then see that the flight data from the last training run by the pilots has like an area where the data on the flight recorder goes completely blank, and that's over disposal area 1, and that's
specifically Beacon Delta. Aha.
Yeah, which is just an area that the astronauts always flew over on their training runs, because that beacon everyone uses as a landmark. Because again, the moon is just a big sea of grey that's fuck all to look at. So, yeah,
you'd think they'd have sent some poor bastard out with like a chalk line machine or some shit. To fucking
I'm surprised someone just doesn't land and just draw a big dick on the ground somewhere to have something to look at.
It would be a landmark.
Yeah, it's like, we're going by
the left testicle at the moment. Soon to be exiting through the. I'm being quiet now.
It's Beacon D.
Yeah, clearly Beacon D.
Yeah,
it's the true Beacon Delta, in fact.
Yes, not to be confused with Beacon Delta. Although, is the actual point, is it at the tip or the base of the shaft?
No, it's actually wherever the jizz is going out of the deck. Because you have to like draw the jizz too. That's just how it works.
So he drew a big dick and balls and 3 spots of jizz.
Exactly.
He the classic.
Exactly.
What the fuck are we talking about? Anyway, yeah, so they've like, okay, so this data goes blank over this area. And we're told that the heat in Area 1 has started rising, but the radiation levels are normal, and they're like, okay, that's
fucking
weird. So they open it up, and we see there's like these little, it's like piles of dirt with like a little cap on top of it. I wrote it in my note, them as radioactive moon nipples.
Could
and
have said
that-
pimples, spots, hives. Nope, nipples.
I'm going with radioactive moon nipples. And those are, and with a video feed open and we can see them, you see that they're getting very hot and spicy.
And lightning is going everywhere.
Yeah, electrical discharges going off all over the place, and they knock out the cameras. Koenig decides to go out in an Eagle to take a closer look.
Before this, a couple of things. First of all, nice that there's a very wide variety of like backgrounds of crew, ethnic backgrounds of crew, and accents here. It's a nice touch.
Yeah, I think it's something which, tended to come up a lot in like Jerry Anderson stuff of like a hopeful...
That's a fair point, actually.
A hopeful view of the future where all kind of countries can kind of, they come together in these kind of big multicultural kind of things to protect people. Like, that's what Captain Scarlet, that's what Spectrum was, basically.
Fair point, actually. Yeah, you're totally right.
And like the whole idea of international rescue is like, although they are all American, like they, the whole idea is like, it being like we rescue people regardless. That it's like we are a worldwide thing. We help everyone. Like it doesn't matter.
I love that even with all this high tech stuff, we're still looking at like ticker tape printouts from the computers.
Retro futuristic stuff.
Fucking
is the
love
best.
it.
So yeah, Koenig goes out in his Eagle. He has a closer look at them, and yes, the nipples are indeed very angry and red.
The nipples are inflamed.
The inflamed nipples. They
You
start.
caused this. This is all on you.
Yep. The nipples start discharging.
Continue.
Oh, I regret that. They start, firing electricity, and it, causes Koenig's Eagle to crash a little away from the disposal area, and the nipples explode.
Yes.
There's like a big swell of music as it fades to black as we see Koenig's Eagles like crashed into the moon's surface.
It was a really good crash.
Yeah. Don't worry though, Koenig is absolutely fine. There is no consequences.
Yes.
You next just see him getting like the final checkup in like the medical unit.
Yeah.
Dr. Russell chastises him for so recklessly going out there because he knew there was a problem and that something was like this was likely to happen. She's like, "We're looking for answers, Commander, not heroes."
It's a really good line.
It's a good line, and he responds with, "Didn't know you cared," which sort of
Fuck
is
you.
the start of their sort of romance that they have throughout the series. It becomes a more overt romance in season 2.
Oh, okay.
Because for reasons that we'll get to. I do not like season 2. We then see Victor is inspecting some of the wreckage that they've pulled from Area 1, and they discovered that there was a little monitoring thing that was to look for for magnetic sort of forces when they were like putting everything in there, and it just hasn't and since then magnetism's not an issue, so it's just been left there and it hasn't picked anything up because it's just not a thing. But they realised there's actually been a huge spike in magnetic energy.
They can tell that because the recorder fucking burned out.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be because when that much radioactive waste is put together in one place, it starts producing this huge amounts of magnetic energy. A thing that nobody thought possible, presumably because it isn't.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how
I
magnetism
will
or
just
radiation works. So
accept that in this universe, an extreme magnetic field can make people go nuts and give them severe radiation sickness and brain tumours.
it can happen.
Yep.
And the magnetism is what caused the flight recorders to go weird, which does make sense.
Yes.
And it has a cumulative effect on people who flew over it daily, which is what caused the quote-unquote virus.
Yes.
Victor points out that the real issue here is that Area 1 burnt itself out quickly, but that could happen with Area 2, which is much, much, much bigger.
Yes. The moon is now a bomb. Forget it being haunted. It's fucking explosive.
Moon isn't haunted. Moon is a bomb.
The ghosts stopped haunting the moon when they realised it was a bomb.
They left.
They went, fuck this shit.
No more ghosts left on the moon. A remote eagle is sent out to check the levels of Area 2, which makes you realise exactly how irresponsible Koenig's trip to Area 1 really was. They could have just sent out a remote control one.
Yeah, no, he was... I find it interesting that it's the American main character that does that, and the two Brits are like, mate,
don't.
Not that I'm saying it's like a judgment on Americans, but your American protagonists are active and just go and do the thing, people of action, whereas a lot of British ones are not.
Yeah. There's actually a bit of that. Again, another one of those. Put a pin in that. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
They set this remote eagle goes out, and everything seems normal until a magnetic surge starts, and it causes the eagle to crash.
Yes.
And Koenig's like, it was radiation, magnetic radiation. Now we're sitting on the biggest bomb man's ever made.
Yep, I'm not touching the magnetic radiation thing with a 10-foot pole.
I don't know how that works.
Yep.
I all I can remember is the order of the electromagnetic spectrum. That's all I know about radiation.
I am not a smart big brain person, so you know.
When I was at school, we were told to invent our own mnemonic for remembering it.
Oh god.
So it's and so me and my friend came up with Gerald Xavier usually likes incinerating minute rodents.
Good.
So
good.
gamma, X-ray, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And so that's and that's all I know about radiation. So
good.
Yeah. Commissioner Simmons is flown up to the moon base, and everything is explained to him. And the big problem is that there is 140 times the material in Area 2 than Area 1. So if that goes up, it's going to be big.
I do want to mention something about Simmons coming aboard.
Yeah.
Koenig puts out an Alpha 1 distress call, which I'm going to say is obviously the most dire situation distress call.
Mm.
And Simmons makes the point that Koenig did not respond to anyone after that. And I'm pretty sure it was just to ensure Simmons got up there and saw it for his fucking self, because he's a bellend.
Possibly. I sort of interpreted it as that when they were trying to get in touch with him, it's when he was in the medical unit.
Maybe.
But that might be... Okay, I know you've got your hands are full of pins right now, but put another pin in that, because there's
Motherfucker, I'm bleeding out.
Because there's probably a reason why there's some parts like that.
Okay.
So the only plan they have, which is Victor's idea, is to spread the material from Area 2 over as wide an area as possible. So it's not all in one place, and so hopefully it'll start to level off and dissipate.
Oh, shit, yeah. Also, Koenig's office has big doors that just open right into the command center, which is classy as fuck.
Yeah, the whole wall ascends, which I imagine would be a real pain if you were trying to have a cheeky wank and you accidentally knocked the button.
Right.
So you probably got to be really careful. They're oh yeah, the original version of it had the button around your elbow. We backed down that. We backed down on that one really quickly after the first commander. We all saw it. We all wish we didn't.
I was going to go that in your private time you just go straight up, no trousers, fuck this, I'm going to walk around in my boxers, and then the door opens. But no, you made it worse. Congrats.
Yeah. Well, it's a stressful job commanding a moon base. You gotta let it kind of go. Let the tension out.
Mm-hmm.
Little low five.
Mm-hmm. Distribute some free literature.
Get his moon unit out.
Yep.
Launch the eagle.
How many more can you come up with?
That's it.
Disperse the nuclear.
They start to spread the. You see a whole fleet of eagles take off to start spreading the material from Area 2 over a wide area. This is basically a segment for people like me that really love the model work.
Yeah.
And want to see more of it, because I haven't really mentioned it, but because this is made by, the Thunderbirds people,
it looks good.
The special effects on all of the model work and everything is really top notch for a TV show.
This must have had a hell of a budget behind it as well, considering the cast and the model work.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at other shows that you think of, although this one wasn't a purely British production, You think of other shows, you think of like, your Blake Sevens and things like that, and it's just so far above that level, or even Doctor Who at the time, like it's so far above the like special effects of those.
Sure.
It's untrue. It's genuinely really nice. If you've seen Thunderbirds, you know the sort of quality. It's just that stuff, but
or the
done
superior
with
show,
live action.
Stingray.
I don't know which one I prefer out of Thunderbirds and Stingray.
Honestly, the correct answer for me is Captain Scarlet, but the Stingray theme's great.
Yeah, Captain Scarlet is fantastic. One of these days, I would like to, on this show, cover some of the puppet Jerry Anderson stuff, or at the very least, subject you to Terrorhawks.
I was going to say the first episode of Captain Scarlet where you get the fucking Martian city and everything?
Yes, where you get the thing where you go, wait, is this in continuity with Thunderbirds because they're using the same moon rover thing that they use in Thunderbirds?
Please don't start the crossovers.
If I remember rightly, in the comics, they sort of established that they do exist in the same universe.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that Captain Scarlet, or it's either Captain Scarlet or Thunderbirds directly references WASP at one point, which is the organization from Stingray.
Oh, okay.
But I'm dipping into some deep old lore there.
So
that I may
if
be
ever
incorrect
you
about.
speak to Wib in some way, even if it's on one of the streams, if you bring up a Jerry Anderson thing, this is what happens.
I grew up on them. I blame things like I blame watching because there was a big revival of Thunderbirds and Stingray and Captain Scarlet in the early 90s.
Which is, I was born in 91, so I got hit with that and I watched all of it.
Which is why I watched it all, and like I had I was a very lucky boy, and my mum managed to get a hold of Tracy Island on the year that was the Christmas gift that kids couldn't get.
Yeah, I had a ton of the stuff as well. The Captain Scarlet stuff specifically. Actually, that does remind me, if we're going to talk about Jerry Anderson for a moment, if this is the last thing I'll say, my parents at one point got this. It must have been like classic kid shows VHS, but it just had a couple of episodes of like all this stuff, like fucking Muffin the Mule and whatever, and it had an episode of Fireball XL5 on it.
Excellent. Is this where we get to start talking about Supercar and how I'm very mad at Supercar because it is not a car, it is a submersible aircraft?
Another time, maybe. Another time.
It doesn't have wheels!
Does it have repulsor jets? It could still count.
I think it's more of just an aircraft that can go underwater.
Okay.
It has been a while since I've watched Supercar, so I may be being unnecessarily judgmental to Jerry Anderson's magnum opus, Supercar.
But yes, on subject, it was at this point when they opened the radioactive nipples that you see the huge borehole they've just put all these containers of waste in, and then you go, oh shit, that's a lot deeper than I thought, and I thought this was going to be one big, like, rod of radioactive material. No, it's tiny little canisters.
Yeah, they've just been dumping little canisters in these big holes, which, I mean, that's
Nothing
about
could
the level of...
go wrong.
That is the sophistication that humans really deal with. Like,
totally.
We dump it in the moon hole.
Yep.
But yeah, so they start doing that, so you see these eagles like pick it up, and then they do literally just fucking scatter this shit because time is of the essence.
It's a case of just set it out all over the surface of the moon within equal distances. They basically social distance the containers.
Yes,
and we'll work out a solution afterwards.
This entire thing was a very prescient show that
totally.
that predicted the pandemic and tried to tell us about it through metaphor.
Sorry that we brought it up there, everyone.
It's fine.
It's a time. We're having a time.
There's way worse. Like the amount of times, like during this whole thing, where I've watched like something and it's just gone hard on some kind of like virus thing, and I've just been like,
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, they disperse all the stuff, and it all seems to be going pretty well. Like the levels of like the magnetism seems to be holding steady. There's some like technical problems due to the fact that they're dealing with like a high magnetic field. So some like
navigation systems are burning out or something.
Yeah, like communications, navigation stuff are kind of burning out, and but that's fine. So Koenig sends out Paul in the Commissioner's Eagle, actually, out to go and observe from orbit.
Just to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, just to kind of, have a bit of an eagle's eye view.
Fuck you. I'm just going to guess, it's at this point that Simmons says something about, right, well, that problem solved, time to get that probe on the way. Because all I have written in my notes is, Jesus Christ, Simmons, you fucking arsehole.
Yeah, pretty much. He actually offers congratulations, and Koenig's like, look...
This isn't done yet, fuck you.
This isn't done. Everyone out there is risking their lives. We're not moving on yet. We got to make sure this is fine before we even think about what to do next. Turns out that was a very smart thing to do, because basically as soon as he hits the end of that sentence, Area 2 starts going up.
It's like, mate, I don't know what you think's happened, but the moon is a fucking bomb right now.
The moon is a bomb,
stellar
man.
body is a fucking bomb. I would strangle that man.
Okay, I'm just making a note, because I think I'm just going to... This episode is just going to be titled "The Moon is a Bomb."
Okay. Good.
So, yeah, the Area 2 starts to go up. The same thing happens where you see all the electricity arcing off the nipples. Although
yes.
These are much less nipply.
Yes.
The original ones were big engorged nipples. These ones are little things. It's fine.
Okay.
But still, it's arcing the electricity again. It takes out an eagle that's flying over it, and then everything explodes. Everything explodes for 2 minutes solid. Just everything is exploding.
We're not talking cool mushroom cloud or big blast. We're talking about there's just a huge white ball.
Yeah, and just
is completely engulfs the view of the Earth from the moon base.
It's out. Yeah, it's it is the largest bomb. But this causes a huge quake across the moon. You see everyone inside the moon base being thrown around. Lights go out. Damage is happening to the moon base, and the moon starts to slowly but surely move out of orbit. And the people on the moon base suddenly find themselves kind of pressed against the floor due to the G-forces of this happening.
I'm not going to even question if that would happen or not.
I mean, the G thing, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay. That's an entire thing within the Expanse, and they're pretty good at being as close to reality as possible.
As close to current kind of research has shown, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, literally everything else that's happened, no, but that one thing, yeah, that's probably what would happen.
All that G-force acting must have sucked to do, because you must have felt like an absolute prick. There's a couple of things we've done for videos where we have to do something stupid and then it will be edited to look less stupid, and it is so embarrassing. We did a thing. It was in I think it was in a Halloween video. We did the thing where people's head rapidly moves for a split second. Yeah.
We had to do that. And we were sitting there, we just had to sit there, with our mouths open, kind of shaking our heads for, a couple of minutes, just so it could be sped up enough. And we're like, this is so embarrassing. This is the worst. It looks fine in the final video. It works, but it's oh, God.
Yeah.
I hope no one knocks on the door right now and we have to explain what we're doing.
Amazing.
But yeah, everyone's pressed against the floor, and the sudden, presumably the shift in the moon moving out of orbit, that throws the space station that the Metaprobe is on out of orbit, which just spins off and fucking explodes.
Yep.
Alan, who's in an Eagle, he's chasing the moon in the Eagle. Oh shit, okay.
This isn't explosion then done. This is explosion and the nuclear materials continue to burn.
Yeah, it's an explosion that isn't stopping.
Yeah. As in thrust.
Yeah, thrust. He keeps calling the moon base to no response on account of everyone being pressed to the floor. I kind of get the impression that everyone's like, squished against the floor, and they're like, "Alan, please give us a moment. We're aware,
mate.
We're aware we're moving out of orbit. Could you please give us a moment?"
Very aware. You're a pilot. You understand G-force, you prick.
Although it is funny that he keeps up with them and he doesn't seem to suffer from the G-forces.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Eventually, Koenig is able to pull himself up and get to the radio and lets Carter know what's happening. Alan Carter. I realize I'm calling him Alan all the way, and then in my notes I call him Carter there for some reason.
It's fine.
It seems that the moon base is damaged, but it's repairable, and they seem to be decelerating, which is not how that would work.
Shut up.
You could
fine.
stop. You could stop accelerating, but you wouldn't deaccelerate.
It's fine. They decelerate.
Right?
It's fine.
Okay. And so Carter can now land. Which also leads to think of why didn't he just go back to Earth? He would have been close to Earth. But anyway,
shut up.
I bet Alan's kicking himself that later is I could have just gone back to Earth. But yeah, everything on the moon base is it's a bit fucked up, but everything's repairable. It's not, they didn't suffer too much. They consult their big computer about Operation Exodus, which is, the...
To which I have got in my notes, there was a fucking procedure for this possibly happening.
Well, it was a procedure for having to evacuate the moon base in an emergency. Is what Operation Exodus is as far as I'm aware. It's brought. If I remember rightly, they bring it up several times. In the show.
The main computer literally says about this, the moon being knocked out of orbit, and it's you guys thought this might happen, and yet you still put atomic waste up here. Nice.
I think it's just it is just for whatever reason if they need to evacuate the moon in an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
And the computer's going you're too far away from Earth. There's altering G-forces, too many variables. This needs a human decision as to what to do. You can't ask the computer about this. And so Koenig gives a speech, which I wrote down in full, and I shall say now. He goes over to the console and he presses the button. It's attention all sections Alpha. This is Commander John Koenig. As you know, our moon has been blasted out of orbit. We are completely cut off from planet Earth. As we have power, environment, and therefore the possibility of survival. If we should try to improvise a return to Earth, without travel plots, without full resources, it is my belief that we would fail. Therefore, in my judgment, we do not try. Which is probably not the best thing you want to hear over the...
Yeah, the we do not try part is pretty fucking rough.
Yeah, that's the part. The rest of it is okay, fair enough. And that just basically we're so fucked. Trying to fix this is a waste of time. And
we'd just fuck up more at this point.
Yeah. And it's oof.
Yeah.
I have compared this show, I think I did in the video that I made about it. I compared it to Star Trek Voyager in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair.
And that's sort of a little bit of that, except it's rather than going home, it's them getting further away from home and not being able to do much about it.
Yeah. It's at this point we get hit with some fucking television history, everyone. In 1999, Granada TV still existed.
Yes.
I remember that fucking logo.
Yeah,
oh, God. Because then, actually, it probably would have as well, because it was, they merged to make ITV in 2004. So they could still be around at this point, actually.
Yeah. Canonically, completely sound, then.
Yeah.
We all remember when the moon left us in 1999.
And
so,
the poor newscaster has this complete chrome silver background.
The news broadcast from Earth is picked up, and it basically describes what the repercussions on Earth have been for the moon going out of orbit, and they're talking about earthquakes and shit.
I'm kind of glad because, if the moon goes out of orbit, the Earth's kind of fucked. We rely on it for tides and all sorts.
It would screw up the sort of equilibrium of everything happening on Earth so much that it would basically crumble society overnight.
Yeah.
Like, and they have, like, on the news, they're like, we basically have no hope that anyone on the moon has survived. And as they are getting further away from Earth, the people on the moon, they start going out of range of this TV signal. Because everyone's just around the main computer, like, screen, watching this.
Yep.
Which is, again, a kind of depressing shot when you think about it. Like,
at this point, once again, I would have beat the shit out of Simmons.
Yeah, I imagine that off screen, it's just like a daily thing. Like, he like looks at his watch and goes, "Oh, it's 10 o'clock. It's time for my daily ass beating." As like everyone gets like a raffle, and you get to go and punch him in the mouth.
It's that fucking scenes from Airplane where everyone's lined up to slap up with him.
Yes, exactly. So whilst they're trying to get the signal from Earth back, and whilst they're like searching through like the bands of radio signals, they start picking up the signal from Meta, and so they're like, "Oh, that's where we're headed. So we're aiming in that direction. Maybe that's where our future lies." And we end on one last line from John Koenig as the camera pans up from Moonbase Alpha into the void of space. September 13th, 1999. Meta signal increasing. Yes, maybe there. And that's the end of episode 1 of Space 1999 as the theme tune kicks in incredibly abruptly.
Yes! You could maybe have waited a little moment longer.
Or maybe have not had the hyper funky ending on that, outro music on that downer ending.
It's a, downer as fuck ending, and also, I love the hopefulness that they'll get to Meta as they fly. They hurtle through the cosmos on a stellar body. But, like, they hit one asteroid field and they're fucked, right?
I'm like 99% sure they do have problems with that kind of shit as the show goes on.
They need to.
It's been a few years since I watched it, so I can't say exactly everything that happens, but, you know, things happen. But yeah, so, what are your thoughts on this episode of Space 1999?
Again, it's sci-fi of an era where it's just comfy and you don't need to think too hard.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. You just
sit there and enjoy it, and it's nice to do that sometimes.
Yeah, I really enjoy Space 1999. There is just something about it. It's got this kind of like comfy kind of thing to it, and you know, the series goes on, and as they're floating through space, because they're basically, it's like they're on a spaceship aimlessly drifting through space, but they can't control where it goes. So a lot of episodes, they'll be like passing a planet, and they're like, "Ooh, it has like an Earth-like atmosphere. We could all go there and live there." And it's about finding ways that won't work. That's basically the episodes of the show.
Yeah.
Or encountering various shit out there, aliens and the like. It's a whole thing.
And I'm sure the aliens are amazing.
Like 90% of them are just people. They're just humans.
I wanted bad makeup. Damn it!
It's some of that happens from what I remember, but it's mostly So, would you like to know some trivia from this episode and beyond, and the show in general?
By all means, as long as it isn't IMDb trivia that's written by an arsehole.
I mean, I do have some of that.
Oh God.
I always have to make some note of it. So, in the original cut of this episode was 2 hours long.
Oh.
It was supposed to take 2 weeks to shoot, but the director, Lee Katzin, took 5 weeks and went way over budget. He then gave Jerry Anderson the 2-hour cut and then buggered off back to America. So,
counting his money in the way.
Much cutting and reshoots resulted in the final episode. So parts where you go, that thing wasn't fully explained. That's probably why.
Fucking hell, yeah.
So yeah, like John's introspective like coffee break. I imagine that's probably got something to do with that, because there was probably a bit more of like an actual him coming to that conclusion. I mean, it might have just been a stylistic choice, of course, because that's totally a valid thing. But there's a lot of things like that where I go, was that done to patch up that they needed to convey some information or remind the audience of information
very
quite quickly.
Yeah.
Although you do not know how much money I would pay to see the original 2-hour cut of this. I don't know if it's out there. I should probably go and look to see.
This might be one of those ones where it's still on film reel somewhere, but it wasn't stored right and it's gone.
Yeah, I imagine
it
it
could be an
probably
assault
isn't
mine
out there.
in fucking Transylvania or some shit.
But yeah, if I'll have a look after we do the episode, see if it does actually exist in any form that is watchable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to see that. I have another bit of fantastic trivia from IMDb as well, which is, quote,
Racing.
after the moon breaks away from Earth, a newscaster mentions earthquakes in the country of Yugoslavia. In reality, Yugoslavia ceased to be a unified country in 1992, breaking up into half a dozen smaller countries.
Oh,
Edit. Also, in reality, the moon never broke away from the Earth. Thank you, IMDb trivia page. You're helpful as always. It's good,
Man,
isn't it?
It's almost like this show was written and made in the 70s.
Yeah.
And thus isn't completely up to date with scientific discovery and like geopolitical situations.
Fuck's sake. I'm sorry that this show didn't know what would happen in Yugoslavia in 1992.
Yeah.
But yeah, so year one would continue very much like this episode. You know, not very much not hard sci-fi, but it kind of takes itself quite seriously.
It's a like serious show, but they don't let like scientific fact get in the way.
Yeah, it's like they do silly shit, but it internally it's taken seriously, so it lends this kind of sense of grounding and reality to what is ostensibly some very silly plots.
Exactly.
However, because the science is obvious nonsense,
It means you can have more fun with it.
Yeah, Isaac Asimov in particular had some things to say about the show.
Okay, that's awesome.
He pointed out that what happened would just have destroyed the moon, and there's no such thing as the dark side of the moon. There's just the bit that doesn't face us. Yeah. And anyway, if that happened, if a large explosion happened on the side of the moon we can't see, the moon would fly at us, not away from us.
Okay, fair point. Didn't think of that.
Which is like, yes, you're right on all accounts. It's also a television show. But you know what? It is one of those things where...
Here's the thing, though. It's kind of cool to know that Asimov, like, just, there's a new sci-fi show on, I'll give it a watch.
Yeah. I think it is one of those things where, like, I watched the show and the scientific faux pas in it didn't bother me. But, you know, if you're bothered by those things, then Space 1999 might not be a show for you.
Fair.
Or indeed 99% of science fiction.
'Cause it's all bollocks at some point.
Yeah. So season one, yeah, pretty much the same kind of thing, with all manner of kind of nonsense happening. Season two, or year two, was very different to year one in that it was worse.
I am going to brace myself and just allow Webb here to speak on this.
So the short version as to why is that the show wasn't performing very well in the USA and was cancelled. Then Fred Freiberger, I think is how you pronounce his name, who you may know from their work on TOS Star Trek, was brought on as a showrunner, and they pitched a new season, which was basically the same show, but American. And I don't mean that in kind of the remake of The Office way.
It's not a derogatory kind of way. We're not saying it like that.
Yeah, and I'm not being a grumpy English person, because I'll actually give an actual quote from Freiberger himself. They were doing the show as an English show. There was no story with people standing around and talking. In the first show I did, I stressed action as well as character development, along with strong story content to prove that 1999 could stand up to the American concept of what an action-adventure show should be. So, putting aside the fact that the the episodes do have a story, and
Yes.
the people standing around and talking is like 90% of all fiction.
Star Trek.
What the show actually became was a lot more lighthearted. It started like there were some episodes of like season 1 that were really kind of just weird and metaphysical, and that kind of stopped.
That just died. Yeah.
Yeah, and it became more focused on action. It basically turned the show into TOS Star Trek. And the problem when you take something like Space 1999 and try and make it into Star Trek is that you have something that has none of the bonuses of either of those things.
Yeah.
It's a poor imitation of both of them.
Whereas it was its own thing previously.
Yeah, so I've watched a handful of it, and I just find it so... it's just not got the same charm.
There must be some like severe tonal whiplash there as well when you go from season 1 to 2.
Very much so. Like how Koenig and Dr. Russell have this sort of... what's the word? It's like they obviously care for each other, but like, and they are constantly on the cusp of being in a relationship, but it's always kind of, there's always, it never feels like it really kicks off because of the situations they're in.
Yeah. Like they try and keep things professional because, you know, everything's fucked right now.
Yeah. In season 2, they are just a couple, and are very affectionate with each other. And it feels like they just become different characters. Like Koenig smiles a lot in season 2. It's really weird and unsettling.
Damn it, he's meant to be like the fucking serious straight man.
They also bring on a new crew. Bring on several new crew members. One of which is an alien who can shapeshift into animals.
Oh, fuck off.
And people. In one of the early episodes, she shapeshifts into Dr. Russell, so they both kiss Koenig, and he has to guess which one is the real Russell.
Oh, God, that's so fucking painful.
It's that thing where you're sitting there and you're like, I'm not one to use the term cringe lightly because it's mostly used as a weapon to attack people. But I could feel myself trying to cringe into a fucking singularity around my own arsehole watching it. It was, ugh.
A web hole, if you will. But
a web hole, yes. Also, the theme tune for season 2 is worse, and my boy Victor isn't in it. He leaves.
Fucking theme tune.
So
I'm gonna... There's nothing nearby that I can throw that would make a horrific sound through the mic. God damn it.
If it helps, Martin Landau, the guy who played Koenig, was not very happy about the direction of year 2 either. Mm-hmm. He wrote on the cover of one script, I'm not going out on a limb for this show because I'm not in accord with what they're doing as a result, etc. I don't know, I don't think I even want to do promos. I don't want to push the show as much as I have in the past. It's not my idea of what the show should be. It's embarrassing to me if I'm not the star of it in the way that I feel I should be. This year should be more important to it, not less important to it. I might as well work less hard in all of them.
Yes, good on
several members of the crew were not satisfied with the direction of season 2, and it was the last season. Mm-hmm. Although it should be mentioned that being dissatisfied with scripts was something that came up a lot in year 1 as well, according to Sylvia Anderson. So it's not this all happened in year 2. But,
oh yeah, totally. But it hit breaking point maybe in year 2.
I think that's the point at which a lot of people were like, no, this sucks.
I do want to point out, by the way, that Martin Landau only died in 2017.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
89 years old.
I should probably mention a couple little things about like the future and the end point of Space 1999.
One second, Webb.
Yes?
Who played Dr. Russell?
Barbara Bain.
Yeah, they were married.
Yeah, they were married, yeah.
Just saw that.
I forgot to mention that.
Oh. They married in the 50s, I think?
Yeah. Martin Landau and Barbara Bain were married during the production of this show.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
Awesome. That's really cool.
But yeah, so season 2 did not end with the residents of Moonbase Alpha, which I think at some point start being referred to as Alphans, which is kind of cute. they never do find a home during the show. There's several close calls where they'll like pass by a planet, and they've even got like most of the people down on the surface, but then something happens and they have to get back on Moonbase Alpha and go back on their travels. It's, you know, it's about them finding a home. I actually think it's really interesting that I think there are a few episodes that kind of toy with the idea that they might be able to get back to Earth, but the driving force of the show is never, we've got to get back to Earth. It's like, no, we need to find a new home.
We need to find somewhere we can survive.
Yeah, and yeah, I find that's kind of interesting.
I kind of like that, because it's not the usual hopeful we'll find our way back home. It's the hope of we'll find somewhere for us. It'll be okay.
Yeah, we will survive. We will make a new home, and I find there's something kind of hopeful in that kind of the hope in against these impossible odds.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I like. I think that's one of the things I liked about the show, of that kind of general vibe about it. Mm-hmm. Even though it was quite grim at times for obvious reasons. But canonically, it was established they did a tiny little short where one of the crew, like one of the original actors, is shown, and this was recorded, I think, in like the early 2000s.
Okay.
Basically going around a little section of the Moonbase Alpha set, turning things off, basically doing like a last log to put on board, saying we did find a home. Everyone's got off, you know, gone and left. I'm one of the last people here. I'm just turning all the systems off, and basically just letting everyone know that after all these years, the Alphans did eventually find somewhere to live. They did get their ending, which is kind of nice to know that we were left on not knowing what had happened to them, and then they did do a little thing to say, yeah, they were fine, don't worry.
Yeah.
There were talks of a remake happening, which would be called Space 2099.
I just found that on the wiki page because I was looking for info on that.
Yeah, the last thing said about it was about 2018, and given how the last few years have been and how long things stay in production, like early, things of production.
I just checked the webpage that they've got here, the Space 2099 website. It's never redirect to 123 movies. So I don't think it's happening.
Well, the thing, like I say, these things, they go through so much production hell, and who knows is what I would put on that. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be nice if it did, because I think this is the type of show that you could... I think if you made it for a modern audience, you tightened up the science a bit so that it's not as... it would kind of appeal to the crowd that likes that kind of stuff. Because I think there is room here to make a show that is more, for want of a better term, expansive,
That's the thing, though. I don't know if it would be the same show if it did that. There's something fun about it just being kind of weird about science. And not letting it get in the way of a good story.
But I don't know if you would be able to make the same show.
I know, and that kind of bothers me.
Yeah, but I think it's just because I want to see a different take on it, because the take we got is very 70s, and I think enough time's passed that, like, I could see a new one, and it doesn't matter if it was faithful or not. It's, just something that, could be new and different. I think that could be kind of fun. Also, Longfang.
Yes.
What type of car do Jedi Masters drive? Toyotas. Toyotas. Longfang.
Wib, my friend, my colleague, end this podcast before I tear your head off.
Thank you, Dad, for giving me this joke book. This officially licensed joke book.
Oh, Jesus.
It says on the front it's got over 50 new jokes. So that implies that this is like maybe a new edition of it.
So it had 51, there was like, it's now 51 jokes rather than one. I don't fuck it. Oh, kill this. Kill this.
But yeah, so any final thoughts you want to have on Space 1999?
No. Good show. Must kill Wib.
Okay. If all the you can find Space 1999 in various places on the internet if you know where to look.
It is on Britbox.
So yeah, go have a watch. See what you feel. I like Longfang. Enjoy the show a lot.
There's something comfy about older sci-fi shows that don't take the science too seriously and try and have a fun story.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of like sci-fi that is just comfortable.
Yeah.
TNG's, that fits that. But even like fucking Sequest, if you watch that, it's like it's like just kind of comfy. It's And obviously that's a lot later than Space 1999, but yeah.
It was actually in the 90s, I believe, so that...
It was indeed made in the 90s. It's we need to cover Sequest at some point.
God damn it.
I'll dig out the episode with Atlantis, it's fine.
Okay.
Or maybe one of the alien ones. Or one of the ones that, because the show is literally just the next generation but wet. One of the ones that has a Star Trek actor in it. Like, Does
Jonathan Frakes show up?
No.
Damn it.
But William Shatner does. Actually, Mark Hamill does as well.
Oh, nice.
So
it's always cool to see him and stuff.
Yeah. It's, I like Sequest DSV more than anyone should.
You were about to say Deep Space Nine there.
I was, yeah. Sequest Deep Space Nine. But yeah, so if people want to find you on the internet, Longfang, where can they find you?
I am on the Twitter at Longfang91 and on Twitch streaming actually in about an hour and a half on twitch.tv/Longfang91. Also, just, since we're plugging our shit and all that, I opened up through Twitter voice commissions. If you want me to say little sound bites for your, stream notifications, or I think someone ordered some lines off me for like one of their RPG sessions are going to be DMing. Yeah, I can do that.
Yes, hit him up. You've heard his voice. It's quite nice.
I'm sorry.
You can find me on Twitter at WibDoesTweets. You can find me on YouTube at the Snipe and Wib channel and on the Wib Does Stuff channel. I also have another podcast called The Misanthropod, and I have a Patreon if you want to give money that funds all of this bullshit. The patreon.com/snipeandwib.
Yes.
Also stream on Twitch. Yeah, it's fine. That's Snipe and Wib, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine.
So shut this down before I kill you using the Force.
Okay. I have one final thing to say, though.
I'm preparing my hands for, the choking gesture, so make it quick.
What's the temperature inside a Tauntaun?
Lukewarm.
Yep, you got it.
I knew that one. Fuck, that's ancient.
Yeah, I know. Some of these aren't new, but you know what? Well, it does say it only has over 50 new jokes. Not all of them are going to be new.
Not all of them are going to be winners either, because none of them are. Let's leave.
Let's leave. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.